I think Discmania is entering a rebuild over the next several years, where it's just going to take a while to get. Because the other thing that was tough, and I don't know if everyone felt this way, Eagle just looked right in MVP. Like when Simon is still in the Eagle announcement video, Simon and MVP still kind of looks weird to me.
Yeah.
But Eagle, like it spun to him
makes sense, yeah.
wearing MVP quarter zip and an Axiom hat, and I was just like, this is the brand that fits Eagle. Like this is Eagle's brand.
I think Discmania's biggest mistake would be just trying to plug Kyle and Gannon into the two holes that were left and just acting like it's a direct replacement. Like they need to really carefully construct a new marketing image around Gannon Burr and Kyle Klein that isn't just like, well, we'll do the same thing. It's just like having Eagle and Simon back, because they're not the same people.
No.
And so they need to like really work on that. I'm sure they will, but yeah, they're gonna have to make a splash. And like they have done a lot of the same things, and I think Discmania has a lot of good ideas. I think these mystery boxes they just did were really fun, but like their kind of like structure and marketing, a lot of it has been similar. They've kind of kept their same brand identity, and maybe it's time to really shake things up. Like just introduce a whole new line of disc, or just really do something that gets people talking about Discmania and not just seeing it as the same thing it's been.
Well, I think where they're at right now is Eagle and Simon were both very talented, right? They both were winners. Even with Discmania, they're both winners, but they both had a like fun goofiness to them. Right, where they didn't take themselves too serious, they didn't take the game too serious. I don't think you have that with Kyle and Gannon. Like, yeah, Gannon's a kid, right?
Like, well, you do. I think you totally have that with Gannon.
And I think it fits the Discmania brand to lean in, like, when they're on the course, like, I always felt like Eagle a little less than Simon. Like, I almost felt like Simon surprised himself when he won. Right, you know what I mean? Like Simon was excited just to be out there and have fun. I think Eagle gets upset sometimes, but Eagle still has a similar feel where like Eagle isn't checking score. Like he literally has surprised himself when he won before because he thought he didn't know his score. Whereas Kyle and Gannon, I think to a certain extent, treat themselves on the course a bit more serious, to where I think Discmania,
like professional athletes,
like Discmania has an opportunity, I think, here to lean into that aspect a little more. The only tough part with that is it requires them to win.
Well, what they really
have to win.
One thing that they need to lean into is they managed to sign Gavin Babcock, Alden Harris, and Gannon Burr, who have a very influential vlog platform that gets 30 to 50,000 views a lot of times during the season. That right there is something they need to lean into.
Well, yeah, you need to get Kyle into that.
They gotta hack into that platform.
Because realistically, you need Kyle's personality to come through as much as possible in case he is your guy. Because
they need to do a better job trying to
Gannon
showcase
slips,
him.
You know what I mean? And Gannon all of a sudden isn't winning as much as you expected, and Kyle takes off. You need Kyle's personality coming through. You can't just put all your eggs into the future is here basket.
They need to try and get Kyle to the forefront more because he's so good. And like Kyle's he has a personality. He's just kind of a more quiet, reserved guy on the course.
But it's similar to Calvin.
You start getting angry out there, maybe.
They should have their own media house and just call it like Media Mania.
Dude, the Hype House.
The Hype House. Yeah. The Heiser House. But no, I think
well,
it is.
They're going to tour, I think.
It's a tough one for Discmania this season, but like I said, I think it's like any sports team where they're just in a rebuilding year. They're not going to lose. Like, people aren't going to start taking Discmania out of their bag because they're upset.
Yeah.
But people are going to put some MVP in, and unfortunately, that MVP is going to be going head-to-head against the Discmania that's already in people's bags.
It's a big shift. I do think the young demographic, though, and Simon and Eagle do still appeal to the young demographic, of course, and they still appeal. Like, they were a big part of our demographic. But Gannon Burr, I think, as the years go on and in these next few years, is going to be a player that appeals a lot. I think there are a lot of players who are like kids that are going to look up to Gannon Burr because he's the youngest. And so I think they really need to take advantage of that there could be a lot of players. Like, if I think about if I were, like a 10, 11-year-old kid right now, there's a good chance that Gannon Burr would be somebody I would latch on to because he still seems like a kid. He builds Legos. So I think nothing against building Legos, but I think that is something they need to really take advantage of because Simon and Eagle, at the end of the day, Simon was always kind of the young guy that we all latched onto, but we're older now, and Simon is a 30-something-year-old dad,
about to have a second kid,
right? They are getting older, so that is going to happen, and you do have now a younger replacement. It's just about positioning them in a place that they can.
I hope
their
that
mark.
Discmania does something to make me interested in them, because I'm at like a kind of an interesting spot with Discmania, because the only reason I care about the Discmania name at all is because of my memory of old Discmania.
That is the other
None of their
problem.
new stuff inspires me at
Yeah.
all. It's so like I hope that, but I don't like that. I don't like that I feel that way.
Well, that's the other problem and I think this is the Eagle move where I think the detriment could come from is it was the final part of the old guard, right? Of like, people already were like I was still clinging on to Discmania a little bit because I fell in love with it when it was Simon and Eagle.
Yeah.
And you had Paul throwing it some. He was throwing FD3s for a little bit and stuff like that. And like, I loved that. And we were all Innova simps.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, now we're all not really that much Innova simps anymore. We still are. But, you have Paul moved to Discraft, but Discmania was still made by Innova, then COVID and all this. Now Discmania is not made by Innova anymore, but Eagles and Simon are still there. Now Simon's gone, but
by the way,
Eagle's still there.
Still gives you the feel.
But now Eagle's gone, and you're left with a Discmania that wasn't what you first loved.
Yeah. And
Like
now
the new MD3s aren't the same MD3s.
you just look at it for what
Where
it
did you
is
see
now.
that he's having another kid? By the
Simon,
way?
he
Yeah.
posted it in tour schedule.
On his touring schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said his touring schedule started in
I
May.
missed that. I was like, where did you see that?
His touring schedule starting late because they're expecting a second
there
kid.
you go.
Hunter just broke
That
the
was
news.
just like he just tossed it into the end of his caption. Like there wasn't a picture.
No,
or
yeah,
anything.
he just threw it in there.
So I was just like,
You got to
what
read,
the heck?
man. But
I don't read.
It's the ending of like an old guard, and you're right. Like there's a lot of people I think in your shoes where it's like this new Discmania doesn't really interest me, and what the problem they could fall into is if Gannon falls in love with the old Discmania plastic, you're screwed. I think, in my opinion, it should be in all Discmania contracts that you can't throw the old
Yes,
Discmania.
I agree.
I don't. That
Burn
doesn't,
it all.
It doesn't make sense to me.
They do a big plastic burning out front.
Because basically what happens is I'm Gannon Burr, okay? Here's my sick old MD3, my old PD2 and stuff like that. Those molds still exist, right? I mean, Innova literally sells them as Metal Warrior or whatever and calls it Mid-Range Disc 3. And then you have the Power Driver 2, that's the Elixir. Like, if I want to go find Innova Discmania,
Phantom
it's
Sword.
not hard. Phantom Sword for the PD. It's not hard for me to go find it.
Well,
And
I
now
think
you're just driving traffic away from your brand.
and
back to Innova.
you know he is gonna throw the old stuff because he joined a collector's group.
I know, but that's
at the very least they could have like stamped it like the new stuff. They made it made it way too easy for us to know when you posted it in the bag, and it's like incredibly obvious because it's one thing if it looks like the new stuff, and you're not gonna know unless you like really know Gannon, and it won't really get out. But yeah, when it was made pretty clear.
That's what. If I was Discmania, I think that's the one thing I would have changed. Is like that's in the contract. It's like you can't throw. That's not our plastic anymore.
Yeah,
like those aren't our discs anymore. Yes, they have a Discmania.
You can't make money off of those anymore.
Dynamic Disc used to stamp Innova stuff back in the day, right? Paul won his 2012 Worlds with DD on the back because it was like a custom stamp and dyeing company.
Yeah,
right. Ricky Wysocki can't throw a Dynamic Disc stamp Firebird. That's not it anymore. It doesn't matter that was a Dynamic Disc stamp back in the day, right? Because what does that help them with? Nothing. I think that's a similar boat of like, and I don't know what the relationship with people internally at Discmania is with like the Innova stuff, like
They
how much
have a lot of nostalgia for it.
like how much, because they were all part of that brand transition, and they're probably very proud of the stuff with Innova,
Exactly.
as you should be. It was incredible discs. But if you want us to care about the new stuff, your pros have to care about the new stuff.
Yeah.
And like you got to move on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him a percentage though, because I will say like whenever he was talking about his new bag, because that first in the bag they posted was clearly like right away, because when he did his collection video just recently, he talks a lot more about what he's going to bag, and I was pretty impressed with the amount of new stuff that he is putting in his bag. Like it is like 80 to 85% new Discmania. He was even talking about throwing the Method, like that's his favorite mid-range. And so I would be surprised if there wasn't something in there, but who knows? I agree though. I think that Discmania, it would be a mistake to just go right back into old Discmania mode. Like their pattern for years has been like they do the characterized signature discs and then they kind of just, right now they're just trying to re-release all their old molds, and I think that is important, but like just do something, like do a brand new thing. Like maybe, and like I know Discmania fans might hate this idea, but maybe don't do the characterized signature disc for Gannon. Maybe do invent a new way to do a signature disc. Like, I don't know. Try to just spice it up.
He's also throwing the Rainmaker in that first in the bag, and I wonder what happens to like that mold, because that was like Eagles mold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it depends on if they own it or not.
Yeah.
Just a shallower P2.
Yeah, or just throw the P2. I guess he could at the end of the day.
Toss
It's not that drastic.
No.
Well, he loved what was the P1 that he threw all the time? He threw the P1 like 500 feet.
Gannon or Eagle?
Gannon. I think he had like a
PA1?
PA1.
PA1, yeah. He loved the PA1. Obviously loved the PA3s.
Mm-hmm.
He loved the distortion he threw the crap out of.
Yeah.
Which I guess his razor claw tactic, I guess, is the closest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Just a little deeper. It's closer to a harp, honestly. The razor claw is, but they
deeper.
fly the same. So it'll be a very interesting season to see what happens. But Eagle to MVP. MVP was already hard to find. Good luck this year. Hopefully MVP can, with that new warehouse, spin up production to be able to keep up with demand.
Yeah.
MVP, I feel like, is still in the COVID boom. Almost.
They're the company that has stayed in that cloud 9 the longest.
Where it's like,
because of the Simon
if you
signing.
see a hex or a glitch on the shelf, you better buy it, because who knows when you're going to see another one. It's
true.
And like that was all of disc golf for a while there.
They've been
MVP
dominant.
is still just like can't fill orders that I feel like, which is a great spot to be as a company, because you just got all this money. Well, I mean, it's kind of a terrifying spot because you're like, how much could we be moving right now?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a great spot because you have all this money coming in and you're just making plastic for money you already have.
It's the age-old question all these companies will ask themselves these days, especially the ones that are struggling for money. It's like, if we could have made, like, where was the limit?
Yeah, like
none of us will ever know. Like,
how
even
much
us.
plastic could Discraft have sold?
We
at
did
the
like a
peak?
drop a month. Could we have done 3 drops a month? Who knows?
Yeah.